Most golfers believe their scores are only controlled by their swing. But after watching thousands of rounds and making my own journey to scratch golf, I've realized something different. Golfers actually fall into 7 different levels, and each level has a completely different problem holding them back. Some golfers are overwhelmed by chaos, some are emotionally reactive, and yes, some are obsessed with fixing their swing. But here's the strange part. You can still have a great golf swing, but still be stuck at some of these lowest levels. Let's find out which level you're actually on and why most don't make it past level 3. Let's start with the first level, what I call the chaos golfer. This is someone who's kind of being dragged around by the volatility of the game. The best way that I can explain it is that they don't have any kind of framework. More importantly, this golfer does not have a system. And that's largely because when most people take up golf, they just don't learn this basic info. This golfer doesn't understand how scoring works. So they are totally dumbfounded that one day they can shoot on the lower end of their potential, and then the next round it's the exact opposite. They don't have any way to select targets. On some holes they're pulling driver, and on other holes they all of a sudden change clubs because of maybe how the round is going or just some random thought popped in their head. Or they just default to aiming at every pin because that's the only physical target they can see. The chaos golfer has no swing framework and is just winging it from shot to shot. They might go through 10 to 20 different intentions or even more during a whole round. And they are also more than willing to listen to just about any tip from a playing partner or what they're seeing online. Sometimes they just step up to a shot and hit it, and other times they take 5 practice swings and then get frozen over the ball. In other words, there is no distinct process for this player. This golfer is just totally overwhelmed and they feel like golf is happening to them instead of being in more control of their game. So if you're standing over shots regularly thinking, I honestly have no idea what I'm supposed to be doing here, that's usually a sign that you're at this level. Now, I don't want to make anyone who identifies with any of this feel guilty. This is totally normal, and a lot of beginner to intermediate golfers get stuck at this level, and they never progress beyond this chaos because they just don't know any better. A lot of their playing partners and friends are reinforcing these concepts. This is actually the type of golfer that I like to help with a lot of my coaching advice, and I found that when you can kind of peel back the layers on golf through things like expectation management and help people realize what are reasonable shots for their scoring and skill level, and also teach them a basic strategic framework and also what are good practice habits, you can stop this chaos and enjoy golf more and have a clearer understanding of how all of this works together. All right, let's move on to level 2, which I call the reactionary golfer. So this is someone who has a little more experience and is starting to grasp a lot of the basics about this game, but they are kind of stuck in this volatile emotional state most of the time because they just can't come to terms with where their game is at. I'll never forget this one guy who I used to play with who literally walked off the golf course after a bad opening tee shot. He might be the most extreme example of the reactionary golfer that I've ever seen. These golfers get emotionally triggered all of the time. If you've ever missed a short putt and then immediately thought, well, there goes the round, that is a classic reactionary golfer moment. They believe that their round is doomed if they make a double bogey on the first hole, and nothing ever seems to be good enough for them. And in most cases, these golfers aren't playing all that badly for their skill level and experience. But the main problem for them is that they are not existing in the proper equilibrium of what I call the caring scale. So most golfers drift between 2 extremes when they're playing. They either live and die at the result of each shot. So in other words, their emotions or expectations are running way too high throughout most of the round, or they start going to the other end of the spectrum, which is playing I don't care golf. This is when you try and protect yourself by just mentally checking out for the day and just saying that you're not going to keep score. Your best golf is somewhere between these 2 extremes. So obviously you care and you want to play well and shoot lower scores, but you're also not so emotionally charged up that you can't accept a bad tee shot on the first hole. Now this balance does look different for each player, and it's something that you need to gain through experience. Most of the time you're not playing worse than you think, you're just reacting worse than you should. So for this golfer, they really need to review their rounds and see what's actually triggering them and getting their emotions out of control. And when you start going through these shots rationally, you usually start to see that things aren't as bad as they had seemed in the moment. So when you start paying attention to this feedback, now you can start teeing off with healthier expectations and realize that variance is normal in this game and it is to be expected. You are supposed to miss plenty of putts. Statistically, it's a probability. You are supposed to thin or chunk a few iron shots, and you're supposed to hit a few errant drives throughout your round. But if you want to get better, you need to work on these secondary reactions and not letting them get you into a funk for a few holes or even the entire round. Honestly, this is what's holding most of you back from becoming a better and happier golfer. I know I was stuck at this level for years. Before I get into the level that most golfers are stuck in, let me tell you about the sponsor of this video, Hypershell. This is the world's best exoskeleton to date. And I have to say that using their X Ultra model has made me feel like I'm actually living in the future. We keep hearing about how robots are going to replace humans one day, but Hypershell is built to augment our capabilities and unlock a higher level of performance. And when I turn it on, I can immediately feel the difference. The AI-powered exoskeleton is built for all kinds of outdoor adventures. It boosts your power, speed, and endurance while reducing fatigue. So whether you're running, hiking, cycling, or on the golf course, it reduces physical exertion by up to 39% and lowers your heart rate by up to 42%, so you can enjoy your activities more and last longer with a battery life that can make it just over 18 miles. I've been walking up some insanely steep hills on the golf course and on hikes that I do. The Hypershell is like a spotter giving me that extra boost, and I can adjust how much or how little it assists based on what type of activity I'm doing. More importantly, when I'm walking downhill, it reduces impact and minimizes knee joint wear and tear. And if you can't get outside, it can also assist in your indoor workouts, giving your legs that extra boost. The Hypershell is incredibly durable and built with aerospace grade materials like carbon fiber and titanium alloy. So it can withstand harsh outdoor conditions like wind and rain, and more importantly, resist scratching. The technology on this thing is really incredible, and I can always control what mode I'm in, either from my phone, Apple Watch, or just using the control buttons on the side. So I can add a little extra boost or remove it when I need it. The Hypershell is lightweight, so it doesn't feel like a drag at just under 4 pounds without the battery pack. So it doesn't feel like you're being weighted down on a hike or on the golf course. And more importantly, you can fold it up really easily so you can bring it wherever you're going. So if you want to add some superhuman strength and endurance to your legs on the golf course when you're hiking, cycling, or just on a normal walk, Hypershell can help you last longer and reduce your fatigue. To learn more about the Hypershell Ultra X and get a special discount for my channel viewers, click on the link in the description. Okay, on to the next level, which is dedicated to golf YouTube. Level 3 is the swing fixer. This is the golfer who thinks that this game is largely a test of mechanics. They are endlessly on the search for it, which is that magical feeling when everything in your swing feels just right. Maybe it happened when they watched that video on how to fix their slice, or at the driving range, they settled onto that swing thought that had them hit 5 perfect 7-irons in a row. This golfer thinks that they finally figured it out, and they step on the course with renewed confidence and hope, only for things to fall apart when that feel eventually disappeared. So if the last thing you thought about on a shot is a YouTube swing tip, you might be stuck at this level. Now, don't get me wrong, your physical skills are the main driver of your scoring potential in golf. I would never say otherwise. Your ability to control where your club face is pointing, the low point of your swing arc and strike location, and plenty of other impact variables largely influence your scoring potential. So it's not a mistake to want to upgrade your swing and your impact skills. But where these golfers get into trouble is that they tinker way too much. And worse, they tinker with the wrong things. Knowing the difference between the two is really hard. So if you step on the golf course and a lot of your mental energy is spent on your swing and what your body is doing, you're falling victim to that phrase you might have heard where you're playing golf swing and you're not playing golf. And my view of this game is pretty simple. In order to reach your version of swing nirvana, you have to consciously put in the right work off the course. Now that could be swing lessons or working on impact skills that you hear myself and Adam Young talking about on the Sweet Spot podcast, or even focusing more on performance games to simulate pressure. But there is a line that you have to cross between the practice environment and the golf course, because what your brain can process in each environment changes dramatically. On the range, you have all the time in the world to think about your swing and what your body is doing, because none of the other things in a real round of golf are there to distract you. Now, when you are playing a live round of golf, you have what I call a limited mental budget. Some of it has to be spent on your process, hopefully picking smart targets, and you're also going to have to fend off worries about how you're scoring or any of the other normal distractions that are occurring. Now, some of that mental budget will go to your body and your golf swing. But if that's all you care about and all you think about, you will never play your best. Your swing shouldn't be an afterthought, but it shouldn't be the main focus either. I think a great litmus test is thinking about the 20 to 60 seconds before you hit each shot on the course. Now, in a perfect world, that's going to be spent picking your target, setting your shot intention, and going through some type of physical rehearsal like a few practice swings, and then how you align yourself to the ball. Maybe you have one or two main physical intentions with your body while you're going through this process. But if you're spending all of that time thinking about your swing and all of the YouTube videos you've watched this past week, and the 5 different checkpoints you want your body to hit during your swing, I think that might be a sign that you are stuck in level 3 and you are the golfer who thinks the whole game is about the swing. Now, once you could start moving past the obsession over mechanics, the next challenge in golf is actually applying what you know on the course. And this is level 4, which is what I call the knowledgeable golfer. This is someone who is making process, and to be honest, a large chunk of my audience falls into this category, and this is what I usually hear from most of them. These golfers understand how the game works from a scoring perspective now. They do have a good framework for making good decisions from listening to podcasts from top coaches, or reading books. They understand concepts like dispersion, playing away from trouble, and how to manage their expectations before and during a round. And they're not endlessly chasing swing tips because their practice habits have improved. But there's still this underlying frustration because there is a gap from what they know off the course to what's happening on the course. In other words, this golfer knows the right play, but they're not always able to execute it. And there's 2 reasons why this occurs. The first is what I call kind of the fog of war of golf. This golfer's looking forward to their round all week. They've been brushing up on their knowledge from their favorite coaches. But once they step on the course, a lot of this information goes straight out the window. And there's a lot of disappointment because these concepts seem so crystal clear when they were off the course and nowhere to be found on the course because things were just moving way too fast in this golfer's head. Now, the second part of the problem is more physical and I think more important for this level of golfer. There's a really big difference between understanding how optimal scoring works in golf from an intellectual perspective and then dealing with the limiting factor of your physical skills. Sometimes their golf IQ is just way ahead of their physical skills, and that's okay. So whether it's the implementation of this knowledge or your physical skills, the answer is usually the same. When you are working on the right things and not seeing the results you want, it is a bit of a bummer, and I know what that feels like. But you have to be humbled that this kind of progress occurs in stages and not all at once. And yes, you can expect setbacks. This is why I always want to add a disclaimer to a lot of my videos and the information that you see from other coaches out there. Just because something is easy to understand and make sense does not mean it's automatically now part of your golf game on the course. You now kind of have to earn this wisdom through playing more, stumbling a bit, and then adjusting to gain that experience. All right, let's move on to level number 5, which is what I call the undisciplined strategist. This is more of an advanced player. They've definitely progressed beyond the chaos of golf, and they have a pretty good model of their swing and are practicing mostly well. And this golfer is getting closer to their scoring potential because they can execute physically. But they still seem to make mistakes and blow up a bit when their emotions get a little too charged in the most important parts of the round. Overall, this golfer can't shake this feeling that every time they play, or at least most of the time, they should be scoring lower. Now, I know most golfers say that after every round, but it is true for certain players who do have a bit of unfulfilled potential and they're just right there in their games. So what's really happening here is that they are mostly a stable golfer and playing efficiently until their ego and identity is threatened. Now, this could be from feeling pressure to perform in front of playing partners. It could be during money matches or during stroke play tournaments, or it can be when they start to feel more awareness about their score and they're getting closer to the finish line of their round. In these moments, this golfer does kind of throw out the game plan. They know the smart play, but they still went for the hero shot. They start doing things that they know they shouldn't do, like trying to thread an iron through that small opening in the trees. Or maybe they're not thinking at all and they just step up to the ball without any kind of plan. This golfer knows better, but their ego is still a little bit too attached to outcomes. So for this player, they really need to build more of a system for themselves and give themselves over to a process and a decision-making rubric that overrides these emotionally charged moments, which is really hard to do. The good news is for this golfer is that it's really not about their physical skills holding them back. It's really the upper echelon of playing skills that's holding them back. These are nuanced parts of the game that can take years to put into action. Now, my recommendation here would be to look into Decade Golf. I think they've done a great job with their program helping golfers remove this decision fatigue and letting emotions get in the way of better decisions. And more importantly, they give a clear outline on how to score efficiently while you're doing that. I do have a link in the description where you can learn more about Decade and get a special discount for viewers of this channel. So once you hopefully clean up these mistakes, you are now moving on to level 6, which is what I call the pattern manager. This is a golfer who is mostly emotionally stable, or at least as stable as any golfer can get. Yes, they still get upset or feel like their identity is getting threatened a bit when their handicap goes higher at times, because golf is a really important part of this player's life. But the good news is that they mostly move past the short-term volatility and noise. This golfer really understands the nuances of the game. They take time to evaluate their rounds analytically and are looking for clues. Is there something they need to practice more? Or is it something more mental or strategic that needs to be addressed? But they're not panicking either and making major changes every few rounds. Instead, they're judging their performance more in 5 to 20 round blocks. A single round is no longer convincing them that they've figured it out or that everything is broken, which is a really important distinction to make about this level of golfer. This player has the ability to play often enough to actually make it to this level. I cannot stress that enough. And because they have this long-term view over many rounds, it reduces a lot of the emotional volatility that other golfers struggle with, mentioned in this video. Also, this player isn't breaking apart their swing and rebuilding it all because of an overreaction to a few rounds. Instead, they're doing small tactical changes that relate back to specific ball flight issues. Maybe they noticed their tee shots in the last few rounds were missing more to the right or even the left, and they're working on an intention while they practice to either open or close the club face. Or maybe their speed control felt off on the greens over their last few rounds, so they're going to spend some extra time on the putting green going through some drills and performance games. This golfer has mostly reached their scoring potential and they can perform in a competitive environment. But they keep having these flare-ups from time to time where the game is really gnawing at them in a deep place. At times, they cannot separate who they are from their golf game. If they choke in a tournament, maybe they feel like a part of themselves fell apart with their game. Although they've reached the upper level of their potential, they cannot completely let go of results defining who they are. And a lot of golfers will reach this level and they kind of stay there for a really long time, perhaps forever, which honestly is not a bad place to be. They have risen past many of the game's challenges and understand how to manage them effectively. But will they ever reach level 7, which is what I call the free golfer? Or in other words, the outcome neutral player. Now, this golfer still wants to play well. They still deeply care about improving and growing as a player, but they have mostly moved past equating their golf game with their identity as a person. A bad round isn't going to ruin their day. And conversely, a great round doesn't suddenly validate who they are as a person. Essentially, this golfer has separated who they are from their scorecard and their handicap. At some point, they realized that golf really wasn't the opponent, it was their expectations that were. They can finally enjoy this game independently of scoring. Now, ironically, this is where a lot of players start playing their best golf when they reach this level. The desire to play well is still there, but they just don't need it. And because of that, the game finally comes a little easier to them. Their decision-making is clearer and the emotional swings aren't as drastic. And they finally aren't fighting against themselves or golf in general, which sometimes feel one and the same. Now, what's interesting about this level is that I don't think you need to reach a certain handicap level to achieve it. But I do believe there that reaching level 7 is attainable for everyone at some point. So defining these levels was a really fun thought exercise for me, and I want you to be honest in the comments section. What level do you think you're at right now? Or even if you have ideas for other levels, feel free to continue the conversation below. And if you need help getting past the first 3 to 4 levels, my book, The 4 Foundations of Golf, lays this out in great detail. You can purchase it on Amazon from the link below, and that is a great way to support my channel and your golf game. And the YouTube algorithm thinks that this is the next best video of mine to watch.